Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's forecast. Good evening, guys, and welcome to today's forecast. We'll be looking at the active tropics, especially across the Atlantic. We have a number of systems ongoing: Fiona, Gaston, Hermine, and Tropical Depression 9. All these are located in the Atlantic, with a weak tropical disturbance of low chances of development also located not too far from Cape Verde. It's between that and South America. So yeah, that has a 20 to 30% chance of any development. So here's Hurricane Fiona at this time, with major hurricane status still in place. At about 130 miles per hour, that'll probably change the next advisory. But we do have hurricane warnings and surrounding tropical storm warnings in the Atlantic Canada area that we definitely need to prepare now, as we could have quite a historic storm moving through that region as a hurricane, which will probably have by that point completed its extratropical transition, moves through that area with powerful winds and more that comes your way. We will get to that right now. So what we have for Hurricane Fiona here, it is expected to, like we said, have big time impacts across Atlantic Canada, significant impacts from winds, high winds, storm surge, and heavy rainfall. So we're going to be seeing tropical storms continue to fade away across Bermuda. Well, we could still see a little more of that. But then the swells and the rip currents are likely to reach widespread areas, such as even the east coast of the United States. But that's about pretty much it for the rest of the impacts. Maine could see some of the winds from this storm as well, while it continues to head north-northeast towards the Atlantic Canada region. So we're going to be seeing plenty of impacts in Atlantic Canada and surrounding areas this weekend. It's really important to watch if you're in that area as well, with those hurricane warnings in place and everything. We do have another U.S. hurricane threat, which we'll get to later on. However, we do have to look at Gaston, with impacts ongoing across the Azores as tropical storm winds up to 65 miles per hour, 60 to 65 roughly, as the storm is making a loop around the islands, and then it will head back west, weaken with time. At that point, it will have complete extratropical transition by Sunday morning, as it stands right now. So we'll probably have that completed actually by Saturday evening. And then it will continue to weaken with time as it heads back towards the west. As it becomes a subtropical depression, eventually at some point by next weekend, it'll probably be gone at that point. We also will be looking at the newly formed tropical storm Hermine in the eastern Atlantic, not too far off the coast of the west coast of Africa, as it has sustained winds of 40 miles per hour, which is a tropical storm. It will head north with not much strength than anticipated. It will turn to the northwest as it becomes a subtropical depression, then dissipate by Wednesday. Now moving on to our tropical depression 9, which is expected to become a possibly major Hurricane Ian. It is heading to the west this time. It's still unnamed, as it is still a tropical depression with 35 miles per hour winds. It will curve to the north this weekend, with tropical storm and hurricane watches in the islands of Cuba, such as Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, with warnings and watches expected over the next few days across western Cuba and Florida, with impacts likely from hurricane force winds and so on in those regions, which today we will be looking more into. So we're going to be heading to the models now and see how everything is going with all this in mind. So now moving on to the models, which will show potential scenarios for all of these hurricanes. Yeah, really interesting going on in Atlantic Canada. It will continue to deepen. It may continue to deepen into a 932 millibar. But this is just GFS model. We don't know for sure what exactly happens. Either way, a powerful extratropical hurricane is likely to impact region, so Atlantic Canada, you really need to prepare right now, as that storm is going to begin impact starting tonight, which means it's coming your way, and we'll start to see things really deteriorate into tomorrow morning. Now with our Ian, that also may become a concern for Florida. It might even stall not too far out from there. And then, okay, so we're looking at Tuesday into Wednesday. We'll start seeing impacts in Florida. It could possibly be very well a major hurricane as it happens. So this is a good time to start really preparing now, especially if you're in Western Cuba or places like Florida, as those regions are likely to see some good impacts from this storm, which means things could be really bad in that area. Again, with those typical effects, we could see some pretty strong storm surge, powerful winds, flooding rains, and all that. So yeah, it has the potential not too far off the coast of Florida as it heads into the eastern Gulf, early to mid next week. So again, impacts will probably be starting Monday, Tuesday across Florida, probably a day or two earlier across western Cuba. And that does pretty much show. Yeah, Monday across West Cuba, Tuesday across Florida, especially across the peninsula, really anywhere has that threat across Florida, as that is not too far off. Now looking at a whole nother model, it unfortunately shows the same thing in Atlantic Canada, with even deeper up to 930, 920, and possibly millibars, according to the icon model. Now, what's for sure is yet to be seen, but it will continue to deepen, most likely. And then Ian, it shows a weaker and more southern scenario with southern Florida receiving the brunt of the storm as a Category 2 probably hurricane that moves over the region, including the Miami area. So either way, Florida should probably start preparing now and at least monitoring the forecast as it shows likely a major hurricane to be impacting the area mid next week. Impacts probably starting Tuesday, possibly as early as Monday night. Either way, this is definitely something we're going to be keeping looking at for the next few days while we're still ahead of it. So it's really time to start preparing now as models really show something going on in Florida next week. Now, looking at another model, we do see the same thing again. It's a little weaker than the rest of the models, with Category 1, maybe even a Category 2 hurricane, according to the Canadian model. This one has it more aimed towards the panhandle, moves it inland across the southeast United States, and then possibly heads back out to sea. Again, this is all next week, and especially as once it heads inland. That probably won't be until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week. But we do see impacts possibly starting Tuesday across Florida, especially in the peninsula. And what impacts it could bring? It will probably bring hurricane force winds and some flooding rainfall, of course. But we'll also be keeping the Atlantic Canada on watch with hurricane warnings, and we're going to be expecting something pretty big across the region. The consensus here is going to be deepening to around 930 millibars, which is pretty strong, possibly record strength of an extratropical hurricane this far to the north. That will be impacting Atlantic Canada. We could even see some of those impacts across Maine, but they won't be nearly as intense as near where we're going to be seeing that landfall. And winds could be gusting up to pretty much 100 plus miles per hour, which is pretty insane, especially for Atlantic Canada standards. I mean, this region has seen hurricanes, but I don't think this strong before, as 933 millibars is pretty impressive for a storm reaching this far to the north, especially let alone an extratropical hurricane hitting the Atlantic Canada region. And yeah, it's safe to say things are really going up for the hurricane season, which had a very slow start. In fact, nothing for August, only one storm in the beginning of July. And now September, things have really gone active, and I was really expecting this even once the hurricane season shut down for a long time. And yeah, I basically was called in my own mind that something like this was me coming. And here it is, guys. 933 millibars across Atlantic Canada. It's pretty insane. As I've been saying this for, it's possibly be record-setting in the region. Winds again. We could be seeing Category 1 force winds, maybe even Category 2 if this thing takes a little longer to weaken. But we'd be at least expecting some Category 1 winds. And taking one little glance at the US weather, while we have most of that area up, it could be wet across northeast, Great Lakes regions. into early next week. But other than that, mostly dry with the high pressure sitting across the region, and we have this looming tropical hurricane threat in the Florida region and across southeast, as we expecting a landfall from possibly a major hurricane in Florida. Yeah, on and off showers possible across the plains. Otherwise, the Great Lakes and Northeast regions could have some showers Sunday into Monday, possibly Tuesday across the Northeast. Yeah, other than that, that's all for my updates today. Stay safe, guys. Hope you have a great day. Really keep these storms in check, especially if you're in the affected regions for possible landfall, such as Atlantic Canada and Florida and surrounding areas.